Hey everybody, this is Andy Bennett with the CSS News Civil War Interpretive Center. This is video 8, our final video in our Civil War Diseases series. I want to take a pause moment, parental advisory. What we're talking about is an adult topic, so if you have small children that you don't want to hear listen to this, or you have children watching this video series, take a moment. You might want to watch the video with them or pre-view this to see if it's okay for them to watch. We'll be talking about mental health in this video, an understudied topic during the Civil War. Mainly going to be focused on what we call post-traumatic stress disorder. Today, it's been called battle fatigue, combat fatigue, shell shock. Most people, recognize it from World War I as being studied. And they're going back and studying the Civil War and wars previous to look for these incidents. It's nothing new. Surgeons in the Union Army recognized that soldiers were under stress, that soldiers were having issues. Occasionally, they would diagnose this as sunstroke. That there was too much heat on their brain. They're not acting right. They need to be cooled down, maybe taken out of combat for a while, rest. They would diagnose them with nostalgia, being homesick, mainly depression is what this is. And so they would get out of combat for a little while, but they also prescribed it as melancholy, mania, but in some cases, we now know that post-traumatic stress disorder manifests itself in physical ailments, stomach issues, heart issues, other health maladies because of that anxiety, depression. Takes a toll on your body's systems. They had said that people would have soldier's heart or irritable heart syndrome, and these are heart issues related to that constant anxiety, adrenaline boost of being in combat. Affects your physical body. So some of the soldiers were taken out of service because of heart issues dealing back with the stress. We find that in military records, only about 2,000 men in the Union Army were found to be listed as insane. We don't know if these men suffered from chemical imbalances, genetic predisposition to schizophrenia, bipolar. We don't know if those are the case with them. We don't have a lot of good records. Typically, pre-Civil War or during Civil War, if someone was deemed just insane, they didn't know what to do with them, they would put them in an asylum. If they were violent, they ended up in prisons. Soldiers suffering from the signs of post-traumatic stress disorder, they're dealing with flashbacks, anxiety, depression, nightmares, some cognitive disorders sometimes. There was a hospital in Washington, D.C., St. Elizabeth's Hospital. It became the first federally funded psychiatric hospital. It's called the Government Hospital for the Insane. U.S. Army and Navy personnel could be taken there for treated for what they call brain illnesses at the time. With the modern research on this, people have went back and taken pension records where you applied for Union soldiers applied for a pension, listed, what's wrong with them. They did interviews at the time, in the 1880s to 1900, and took their military records and compared them and found that there was a couple of factors involved. The younger you were, if you were injured, if you were in a unit that had a high percentage of death in your company, and if you had been a prisoner of war, that you had a huge likelihood of suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, any of those combinations of things, being a young person, of course, it's going to be extra stressful being away from home. Suffering an injury, especially something like a loss of a limb, is going to be super stressful about what's going to go on with you, what you're going to be doing, what your future is. Being surrounded by all your friends and family and your company and tight knit communities that were recruited and went off to war's companies, or whether close proximity to ship, high numbers of people you know and love dying are going to, of course, affect you. And being a prisoner of war, being captured, and being a prisoner of war north or south were in horrific conditions of starving, being cold, dying of disease. So it's all those factors. But yeah, so the more one of those years, the more likelihood you're suffering from what we call post-traumatic stress disorder. There's also post-combat hypervigilance disorder. That's where you can't get in that mode that someone's gonna, it's kind of like a paranoia, but it's from being in combat, being in a dangerous situation, being on guard all the time. You can't get away from that. There's been a bunch of good research. If you're interested in this topic, I'm gonna throw out some other place you can get some information. Diane Miller Somerville is an author that's done some excellent research and excellent writing on the topic of mental health during the American Civil War. So look for her books. There was also a very good case study in the Gettysburg College Civil War papers by Savannah Rose. It's called Murder in Manassas. It follows one Confederate soldier case study of his service, and then post-war his propensity to solve things with violence, which eventually, of course, from the title Murder in Manassas leads to a murder. It's very well done. I would suggest you read that if you're interested in this topic. I've always wondered how the combination of men suffering with some of these post-traumatic stress disorder, being trained to deal with things from a young age, to solve everything with violence, suffering with alcohol abuse and drug addiction, how some of the famous outlaws, gunfighters, lawmen, that a lot of them were Civil War veterans, how that shaped the American West and how we see the Wild Wild West today. It's always intrigued me. Thank you for joining us for this video series. Hope you learned something. Hope you're enjoying them. Check out some of our other video series. We have a Civil War cooking series and a food preservation series that I do. And always check out our YouTube, our Facebook, and our Instagram page for more videos. Thank you for watching, and see you again sometime soon.